Hey, what's going on? This is your teacher, Mr. H, and we're here with another special Milestones Prep episode of History in a Hoodie. Let's welcome back my special guest, Mrs. Taylor.
Glad to be back on the show. For this week's episode, we will review the government standards. That will include the foundations of Georgia's government, the details of the three branches of the state government, and the juvenile justice system.
Great, let's get this rolling.
Georgia's government was set up pretty much the same as the national government. Three branches were created to follow the principle of separation of powers. This means that the main powers of the government, writing laws, executing laws, and interpreting laws, are divided among the legislators, executives, and justices, rather than having one person in charge. To make sure that no branch becomes too powerful, the Constitution also set out checks and balances where one branch has limited control of the other two. Examples of checks and balances include the veto power in the executive branch and the impeachment power of the legislative branch.
Georgia's Constitution includes a Bill of Rights, which tells the government how it should treat its citizens. People are guaranteed rights like the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and protections from abuse of judicial power, like trial by jury and right to representation by an attorney. While citizens have several rights, they have responsibilities too, like voting when you turn 18, serving on juries, paying taxes, and paying attention to what's happening in government. Georgia's government was founded on three virtues, which are mentioned in the state Pledge of Allegiance. These virtues are wisdom, justice, and moderation, and they can be found on our state seal and on the Georgia flag as well. They represent the goals of the three branches of government. Wisdom for our legislators writing laws, justice for our judges making decisions, and moderation for our executives leading us.
Georgia's three branches of government were set up almost identically to the federal government, so our legislative branch has two houses just like Congress does. Georgia's General Assembly has a state House of Representatives and a state Senate that write and pass laws that affect Georgians every day. To become elected as a state representative or a state senator, you must meet age, citizenship, and residency requirements to be considered in the election that happens every 2 years. Representatives and state senators participate in the committee process to determine which bills come to a vote. Because too many bills are proposed every session, committees divide up the work and separate the winner bills from the loser bills before the whole chamber of the House or Senate gets to vote on them. In order for a bill to become a law, for example, a government funding law, it must be approved by the House committee, then voted on favorably by the whole House, then approved by the Senate committee, then voted on favorably by the whole Senate, then finally signed by the governor. Woo! Finally, after all that has happened, the funding bill is a law.
The governor is the head of the executive branch and is supported by the lieutenant governor, and their job is to execute the laws. To become elected as a governor or lieutenant governor, you must also meet age, citizenship, and residency requirements to be considered in the election that occurs every 4 years. A governor can be re-elected to serve up to 8 years in a row. Executing laws means making sure that they happen after they pass. Most laws fit into two categories, rules and budget laws. For the rules, the governor instructs the police and state agents at the GBI to enforce the laws, for example, traffic rules. For budget laws, the governor collects tax money and distributes it to wherever it is supposed to go. Because this is such a huge job for one person, the governor has several state agencies and departments working underneath him in the executive branch, who handle much of the work. Agencies like the Department of Education and Department of Health have their specific areas of expertise and help run areas of Georgia's government.
The judicial branch's duties are to administer justice and interpret laws, and it is made up of two kinds of courts, trial courts and appellate courts. Trial courts are the first courts that would hear a case. Examples of trial courts are state courts, superior courts, juvenile courts, and magistrate courts. Which court hears a case first is determined by its jurisdiction, which means the right to first trial. Jurisdiction is determined by the location a crime occurred and also the type of crime that occurred. Appellate courts, on the other hand, hear appeals from the original trial court, meaning the first case didn't go the way one side wanted and they want a new trial with a different judge and jury. Examples of appellate courts are the Georgia Supreme Court and the Georgia Court of Appeals. Courts hear two types of cases, criminal cases and civil cases. Criminal laws are about incidents where laws were broken and an individual is harming society. In this case, the government faces off against the defendant. Consequences in criminal cases often include fines and jail time. In civil cases, also known as lawsuits, two individuals argue against one another about issues that don't necessarily involve laws being broken. Consequences in civil cases are mostly always about money.
The justice system may seem scary, and that's the way it should be, because we never want any of you to have to experience time in court. But it is also important for you to understand, just in case. The juvenile justice system is set up separately from the adult justice system because juveniles, meaning youth younger than age 17, may not be completely responsible for their actions, and also because they have special rights when it comes to interacting with the justice system. Juveniles are expected to comply with all the same laws as adults, like don't murder or don't steal, which are called delinquent behaviors. But they also have some special rules that only affect young people, like don't skip school or don't possess or use alcohol or tobacco products, which are called unruly behaviors.
Should a juvenile be arrested, it is important for him or her to know their rights. Juveniles are guaranteed to have their parents and a lawyer present for any questioning by authorities. Juveniles are guaranteed the right to privacy, to never have their name or picture shared with the media. Juveniles are guaranteed never to be placed in custody with adult offenders. Other than the special rights, many steps in the juvenile process are similar to the adult process. After arrest is intake, where the offender is informed to the charges. The first visit with the judge is to determine if the juvenile will be released to their parents or spend the duration of the trial in custody at a juvenile detention center. An adjudicatory hearing is when the evidence and the witness statements are presented to the judge and the judge determines guilt or innocence. Finally, a disposition hearing is held to determine the punishment for a guilty juvenile.
Juveniles found guilty can face a variety of consequences, but it's important to understand that the purpose of the juvenile court system is to rehabilitate, not to punish young offenders. In the case of most extreme crimes like murder, however, juveniles may face being tried in court as an adult and face adult consequences. Moral of the story for all of this is, know the law, don't break the law, find another way.
Thank you for watching this special Milestones review episode of History in a Hoodie on the government standards.
I highly recommend that you use this playlist of Milestones review videos to help you review ahead of your exams. You can go back and find all of them on my channel, simply named Mr. Hoffmeister.
I hope you learned a lot. And if you did, don't forget to like,
Subscribe.
and share.
Just kidding. We don't care about that stuff. But do make sure you prepare for your end of grade tests. Good luck.